It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
It is.
Except if
You're allowed to
Texas.
do that since Thanksgiving has passed. Otherwise,
right.
we would have had to do a restart. I will not tolerate Christmas music before Thanksgiving. Sometimes before Halloween.
I would bring back pillaring for playing Christmas music in public before Thanksgiving, with caning on the second offense.
And by the way, I don't know where November went. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I remember Halloween pretty well.
I never do.
Well, we're I'm walking around the store now and singing Christmas songs all day long, which is great. And thank goodness, where I work at Nebraska Furniture Mart, they don't play the kinds of alleged Christmas songs that I hear in other stores. Like, if I was shocked and saddened at the assassination of John Lennon as much as anybody. But if I hear "And So This Is Christmas" one more time, I'm going to dig him up and shoot him again. It's like the worst.
Just no, you send Mark Chapman back to kill him before he writes the song.
Back in time. It's unbelievable. Some of the stuff, like stores feel compelled. They have to play some sort of holiday music, and some of them don't want to be too old-timey, and so they play what they consider to be hip rock and roll Christmas songs. Is there a good hip rock and roll Christmas song?
No, and every year they got to come out and modify it more so you have something new to listen to. It's like, we actually like Christmas carols pretty much the way they were 170 years ago. I mean, that's how I want to hear these things.
Harry Connick puts out, Harry Connick and Brian Setzer both put out a new Christmas album about every 18 months, and they're usually pretty darn listenable, but mostly they're just, recording the old standards in new ways, which I love.
Yeah, Brian Setzer Orchestra is actually going to perform near me sometime soon, and for those of you watching, you probably remember Brian Setzer as one of the troika in Stray Cats.
Yep.
But anyway,
you guys heard the dubstep version of "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen"?
Is there a dubstep version?
Wop wop ba da 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 bum bum wop wop doo doo. Yeah, it's like that kind of. It's pretty.
I don't mind the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, with that whole thing. That's okay. But what is the? Oh, I'm trying to think of that.
If only Spyro Gyra would put out a Christmas album.
Oh.
I want 4 gaunt, vaguely tubercular-looking individuals outside in freezing weather with merely a wool scarf around their neck, holding candles, and I'll throw them tuppence.
That's
what I want for my. That's what I want for my Christmas
carols. A bucket
carols.
of coal with which to warm themselves.
I keep telling my colleagues at the store, the last song in the world you want to play in a retail establishment is "All I Want for Christmas Is You." Yeah. We don't want to give people the wrong idea here.
What's the matter with you?
Which is actually you want a modern song. Modern. This is how old I am. Mariah Carey wrote that in 1990, and it's not a bad. It stood the test of time. It's not a bad.
Yes. In fact, it's probably the only legitimate recent Christmas song that I think will remain in the pantheon.
You can add new ones, but you have to take one away.
Agreed.
Ooh.
So,
we get rid of the little drummer boy. I'd like to take those sticks away and beat him to death with them.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you haven't just dropped in on the local weekly meeting of Sadists International. No, in fact, this is the backstage meeting for Right Angle.
Did you say sadists or Satanists?
No, all the Satanists are in court.
That's right, yeah.
But this is a backstage meeting with Scott Ott, Bill Whittle, and Stephen Green. We're planning this week's episodes of Right Angle. I have the privilege this week of having the members-only episode. And once again, I find myself in a quandary between the horns of a dilemma. And as far as our regular episode, I think I know what I want to do for members-only.
You find yourselves upon the horns of a dilemma.
I am on the horn. I'm upon
the horns of a dilemma.
What did I say? Between?
Between the horns.
Oh, really? I don't want to be on the horns. I'd rather be between them. Have you ever been on a horn?
And under the sword of Damocles.
And in Texas, there's like 6 or 8 feet between the horns of some of the cattle out here. So you have a lot of latitude.
Drive a bus through there, yeah.
Before you get gored. Any case, there are 2 stories that caught my eye, and I really don't want to get into deep details about them, more rather the larger concept. One of them is under the topic of abortion doula. Now, doula is a term that is normally associated with somebody who sits with a pregnant woman who is about to give birth, who's in the process of giving birth. And a birth doula is a woman who is not a medical professional, but she's just there to comfort the woman who's giving birth because, guys like me are just pathologically incapable of comforting our wives.
Yeah.
But she's there. Well, now there are some organizations, including one in Washington, D.C., that have these abortion doulas. And their job is to sit there and hold the hand or comfort the person or talk to them or whatever while they're in the process of getting an abortion. And I thought the reason why it caught my eye was all the talk about how, it's just a bundle of cells and it's just a choice and it's not that, big a deal. Your lifestyle is more important and all this kind of stuff. And yet here is this sort of open acknowledgement that for a lot of women anyway, it's an emotionally charged, wrenching, sometimes depressing situation. Not always. I mean, some of the women report that, they have a great sense of relief and stuff like that. So anyway, what do you make of this idea of having to have abortion doulas?
Is this just another effort at equating of elevating abortion to childbirth? That's my first impression.
It's like the second greatest rite of passage for a woman or something. Anyway, the other one was a guy is dying, and the medical team is trying to administer efforts to keep him alive, and when they take his shirt off, they see he has a great big tattoo across his chest that says "Do not resuscitate."
And his signature was tattooed underneath that, and the "not" was underlined.
Yes. And years ago, I've been saying for years, because I saw a woman who was in her 90s, and she dropped to the floor while square dancing, and they life flighted her, resuscitated her 3 times on her way to the hospital, and eventually kind of barely kept her alive. She was essentially non-communicative and in a sort of in and out of a coma-like state for the next several months, and died in a nursing home. And I used to tell people, man, if you don't want to be resuscitated, you better tattoo that on your chest. And this guy did.
Wow.
And they
tried to resuscitate him anyway?
They did not respect his wishes.
So is he alive now?
I think he died, but
as I understood it, they didn't know if this was an actual wish or if it was a drunken mistake at a tattoo parlor. And so I'll have to look this up before we actually tape the segment. But if I remember correctly, they were trying to resuscitate him while they had the legal department look and see if he had a DNR on file anywhere. And it turns out he did.
He did.
If I ever go out drinking with Steve Green and I wake up one day and I have "Do not resuscitate" on my chest tattooed, and "not" is underlined, I'm going to have another tattoo artist put a big X through the "not" and it's going to say "Do resuscitate." I'm going to underline "do" like 4 times.
And I'm guessing you'll also be in a bathtub of ice cubes when you wake up.
Somebody stole a kidney.
That's right.
Just the one.
So
you've got
so
two.
let's take that one, because I just can't take the abortion doula thing. But let's do Let's do the "Do not resuscitate" tattoo, because to me, the interesting thing at the time when I had this real experience with this woman whose name was Thelma, I believe. This has been years ago now, but what I thought was, well, then any "Do not resuscitate" order is moot, because the paramedics and the life flight people and the ER people, their first instinct is do whatever you can to save the life, even if it's a 93-year-old woman who dropped dead while square dancing. And so why even bother getting such an order unless you happen to be trickling away of the consumption or something, slowly dying? It's useless.
Well, starting 30 years ago, lawsuits became a kind of a lottery jackpot for some people. If something happened to you, people realized, hey, this is worth $100,000 to me, and companies pretty soon figured it was cheaper to pay them than it was to fight it.
Which is a perverse incentive right there.
Precisely. And so this thing just grew and grew and grew. So I'm sure that the individual paramedics respected it. Well, I don't know that for a fact, but if it were me, I would have. But you've got to think, okay, am I going to get fired now because the hospital got fined $6 million because we listen to some tattoo when, in point of fact, the grieving wife, has said time and time again that he altered his will. And this is the world we've made for ourselves.
Well, and you can always rescind a tattoo like that later. I mean, I had a friend who had a Hawaiian girl in a grass skirt and no top on his leg, and then after he came to faith in Christ, he had a black bar across the top.
Instead of going through the laser removal, he did the sensor bar.
Back then, I don't think there was laser removal when he was doing
I would have put a bikini top on.
That would have.
No, the sensor bar is funny.
The sensor bar is much better, actually.
Or just a frumpy blouse. I mean, like a house coat or something.
Put her in one of Hillary's pantsuits.
That's not funny.
That ought to do it.
So that's my regular episode, the Do Not Resuscitate tattoo. The other one, and this is for members only because our members can handle the kind of cogitation that this will require.
Uh-oh.
There's a fascinating debate going on right now among some unlikely characters, or at least one unlikely character, is this. Can a president's constitutionally lawful acts be grounds for impeachment because they constitute obstruction of justice? And so here's the question. If President Trump, for example, let's say he fired the FBI director, and let's say that he did that because he wanted the FBI director to stop looking into his campaign's ties with people in Russia. Is that an impeachable offense because he's obstructing justice? Or, as, believe it or not, liberal lawyer Alan Dershowitz argues, it's not, because the president cannot be impeached for constitutionally sanctioned actions like firing staff or pardoning people, since he's allowed to do that.
He is the chief
That's
executive.
a great question. I was going to go with yes, he should be able to be tried for obstruction of justice, but no, that's right. That's exactly. I'm with Dershowitz on this one.
Now, but here's the interesting thing, because the counter to Dershowitz, and I forget whether Lawrence Tribe brought this up. I mean, Dershowitz and Tribe are going at each other on Twitter.
Oh, and Tribe's lost his mind too. If you read his stuff on Twitter,
but maybe it wasn't him, but somebody else who basically said, "Well, look, even a constitutionally lawful act by the president can be obstruction if his intent was to use it to obstruct." So therefore, if, in fact, let's say I'm president of the United States and I fire somebody because he might turn up something bad about me, then constitutionally I am able to do that. However, it could still be considered obstruction of justice and an impeachable offense. So it's an interesting little tangle.
Very good. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it is.
It's an interesting question. I like it.
All right, Stephen Green, I will give you the next option. You got any topics this week?
I have one. And fortunately, that's all I need. Yeah, this week, Tuesday, the gay wedding cake baker case, Jack Phillips was the baker's name, goes to the Supreme Court. And I think this is a big test of religious liberty in the age of legalized gay marriage. I don't. How familiar are you guys with the facts of the case?
Yeah, let me just clarify something for our viewers. The gay wedding cake was baked that way. It wasn't a choice.
I think most people are familiar, but it would be a good idea just to give a quick thumbnail.
Yeah, I'll do it again when we tape the actual segment. But Jack Phillips, a baker in Denver, so just about 40 minutes north of me, refused to apply his artistic skills to a gay wedding cake. He was willing to sell a gay couple a wedding cake. But he also, because of his Christian religious beliefs, he doesn't do Halloween cakes, and he doesn't do celebration of divorce cakes, which apparently is a thing I was unaware of till I was doing my research on this story.
I did not know about that.
And he does not want to apply his artistic skills, his First Amendment protected artistic skills, to a cake celebrating a gay marriage, and this couple has put this man through the ringer all the way to the Supreme Court, even though they could have gone, to the baker across the street and gotten whatever they wanted.
Well, it's because, Steve, they were horrified. They felt shamed and horrible when the guy said politely that he would not bake a cake for their wedding, and so they felt like they.
But he would bake a cake for their wedding.
Well, he would sell them a
decorate
cake. And my understanding was he would sell them a cake from his shop, but he wouldn't like custom make a wedding cake for a homosexual wedding.
Exactly. Well, no, I'll save that angle for the actual segment.
Okay.
But
My fond hope is that the Supreme Court finds that they behaved absolutely correctly, and the second that gavel hits the wood, I think he ought to open a civil lawsuit against these two people and really, really make them pay. Really make them pay.
See, this when I saw this, I immediately thought, these guys, were they not Americans? I mean, what would be the first thing a real American would do if you, let's say you were an American who was getting married, man getting married to another man, and you go in and you find that the local baker won't bake you a gay wedding cake? What's the first thing you would think?
Are you asking me what the traditional, century-long tradition of American marriage to a man from one man to another man? What should we consult the Elder Scrolls about in terms of this?
No, I'm just saying, if you're a real
I would
American,
say, hey man, it's a free country. They do whatever you want to. There's another guy down the street.
Even further than that, you'd go, man, we should open a gay wedding cake store.
Oh, absolutely. Make a
fortune.
market.
There's a market niche here that's not being served.
Oh,
now this is one of the most tyrannical things.
Yeah, companies that
This is
cater
one
to
of the
gay
most tyrannical.
markets oh, sorry, Bill. You go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Companies that cater to gays tend to make tons of money because you're talking about people who are generally well educated in a field that makes pretty good money and don't have any kids they have to spend all their money on. It's a great field.
This whole thing is one of the most egregious examples of tyranny that I've seen since I've been doing this work.
Yeah.
It's simply appalling.
Oh,
absolutely appalling.
And it's not like they were ejected from the premises. In fact, it was politely explained to them that he would be glad to sell them anything in the shop.
Of course.
But he would not participate. In essence, everybody who's part of your wedding, from the people who do the flowers to the photos to the pastor to all that kind of stuff, they're all part of your wedding.
Correct.
It's a group effort that a lot of artistic skills goes into it and stuff like that. I'm just not going to participate in your wedding, is what the guy basically said.
Yeah.
And they walked out of there shocked and horrified. And I can't help but thinking this is just another example of leftist lawfare where they said, let's go find a guy who, has the Bible verse on his wall in his shop, and we know he's not going to do this for us.
It's a test case for legalized intolerance,
if you
ask me.
Yeah. Good one.
Well, that should be charming, Steve.
It'll be fun.
That's right.
But I've got a great line for the conclusion. I've just got it burned into my brain.
We'll have a gay old time, as the Flintstones did. Bill Whittle, your turn.
I saw a story that in itself is not really big, but I think it tees off a bigger discussion. Did you guys hear about the hate crime on Saturday Night Live?
I heard about it, but I don't know which skit it was.
They did a skit on Irish Airlines Aer Lingus with easy now.
Scott, man.
I forget what that Irish actress's name. I forget right now.
Shannon
but
something.
I saw this skit. Yeah,
but apparently the Irish nation or elements of it were up in arms that people would use stereotypes of Irish people, such as they like potatoes and have red hair, I think was the other one. One person tweeted that this was a hate crime. Not true, that's one individual. It's not like, it's not like the Irish government did it. You can find one individual tweet anything. But there was a significant amount of pushback for it. And I have two things I want to talk about. It's like, oh, they made fun of your ethnic group, did they really? And did they insult them and assume that you're all a bunch of use the same hick language is that what happened? You can't imagine how much sympathy this generates for me.
Yeah.
That's number one. But I think the bigger issue is I have gone from trying to fight this kind of thing to actually encouraging it, because I would like to see this whole thing disappear down the politically correct death spiral. Even years ago now, it's been several years since guys like Chris Rock said, I'm not playing campuses anymore. I can't say anything on campuses because everybody's going to get offended. Well, Chris, you made these people. You and your policies made these people. So this is these are the dragon teeth that you sowed, and now you get to reap the fiery whirlwind. And I think the faster this comes, the better I like it. I really think it's my attitude on a lot of things now. Well, it's not so much prevention as just, preservation.
I got to tell you, Bill, I watched the skit, and I mean, it's a pretty bawdy skit. But what struck me about it was the freedom with which Saturday Night Live felt comfortable speaking in racial caricature and stereotype about Irish people, where they would not do that with black
Air
people.
Nigeria.
They're not.
No.
Sorry.
No.
So anyway, it was that, and then I wondered, and I thought, well, they do have a long history of this. Of course, we all remember the swinging Czechoslovakian bachelors, those two wild and crazy guys from the 70s. But that's it. Today, you see that and you go, oh my goodness, they feel okay about mocking the Irish. But if you did that to the Jews or to black people or to any other group almost. So I'm okay with them mocking the Irish. I was raised by a Scottish grandfather who referred to Irish people as mix, and that's okay.
You should be able to do, and you used to be able to do it with anybody. Remember that movie made about a black airline? It was a comedy. It was like a blaxploitation
Was it
film.
Pam Grier, Foxy Brown.
No, it was a movie about a black airline or a black airplane. I'll look it up. But in any event, I think they probably thought they'd get away with it, Scott, because up until now, the Irish have always impressed, and again, it's not every Irishman, it's just a few people making noise, have always impressed me as being willing to laugh at themselves. We've said before, people are screaming about the Cleveland Indians or the Washington Redskins and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's just a little leprechaun, This is
Fists up, baby.
And we've chosen as our mascot a drunken, fictional, aggressive, lunatic, and we're okay with that.
Yeah.
I always admired that about the Irish. I always thought they had a good sense of humor. And so, anyway, I'm not so much interested in the story so much as if it's creeping into the fact that not even the Irish can take a joke anymore. And if Saturday Night Live is getting pushback from Ireland and Irish Americans and Irish people, then at what point is Saturday Night Live going to say, well, there's just simply nobody we can make fun of anymore except you-know-who?
Well, and I wonder how much of this, did the average Irishman see this skit and think, I am offended to my national heritage, or did they just think, oh, that's pretty funny?
Yeah,
I don't think anybody thought it was pretty funny. It sounds like none of it was very funny.
It's Saturday Night Live, but, so it's not about humor anymore, but still.
All I know is in the mornings when I serve my kids a great big bowl of golden dreidel cereal.
Golden dreidel. For those of you who don't know, Stephen Green is, I think, as Jewish as Elizabeth Warren is Native American.
No,
I think it's a higher
I'm half
percentage.
Jewish.
It's a higher percentage than that.
I'm half
isn't
Jewish.
It? Oh my goodness! So, what was the old line that Groucho Marx used that he wanted to join the club where they forbid Jews, and he said, "Well, my son's only half Jewish. Can he wade into your pool up to the waist?" Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. You've wasted a perfectly good 25 minutes.
We apologize for nothing.
That's right. Never apologize, never explain. Last week we did a little episode for our members about our interactions with you and how we are always honored to meet you and stuff like that. And I've seen a lot of really cool comments about that, and tried to interact with some of you on the discussion board at BillWhittle.com. Keep it coming. Thank you very much for not only the way you've embraced us and are part of our extended family, but the way you embrace each other, the way you treat other members at BillWhittle.com as if you had a common bond, and indeed you do. And it's not about me and Steve and Bill. It's really about a set of core principles and values of ideas that have shaped the world and made it a better place for hundreds of years now. So we appreciate that. We appreciate your contributions at BillWhittle.com that make it possible, your membership there that make it possible for us to do this show. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott with the entire team at BillWhittle.com. Thanks for watching Right Angle. We'll see you on this week's episodes.